I've raised money at a 50 plus crore valuation, but I've raised a little over $1 million as of now for Scandalous, of course. Urban Spice. I mean, overall, for the startup ecosystem, I see a lot of Gen Zs today starting companies for all the wrong reasons. And interestingly, when you talk about preferences, India eats 17 mithais for every ice cream eaten. But most of the most of the mithais sold in India planned purchases, celebrations, occasions, and like I call them pin code heroes sell them, the mithai walas. And I realized that post meal impulse purchase mein to usme it was a complete white space. Before I knew exit was a term, that was my first exit from my business.
Why do bars shut down, So today I have a very interesting guest with me. He's a veteran in the hospitality sector. He has more than 15 years of experience. He has been growing one of the most unconventional businesses, I must say, in the country. He's actually getting the Mithai business organized, which is the most toughest when Indians have their sweet tooth and they love their own personal Mithai wala. So he's ventured in a domain which is currently very unorganized, but getting there, and he's doing it like a magician, I must say. So without further ado, hi Sanket. Thank you so much for joining us on Getting Drunk with Madira Vogue.
Thank you, Priyanka, for such an interesting introduction. I normally need to be 2-3 drinks down to sound so interesting. You've saved me 230 mls. By making it sound so interesting even before that.
Well, Getting Drunk with Madira Vogue podcast is all about drinking responsibly and having good conversations over a drink or two, don't we? I must give you a credit for the kind of names you come up with for, especially the current one, Scandalous Food. And that too for a very, for a food startup.
When I wanted to start Scandalous Foods, I realized that, India needed more sweet shops, but the restaurant industry didn't need one more Pandey Sweets. It needed a Mithai operating partner. So, we wanted to break the traditional, conventional thought behind a Mithai wala. And of course, because I was entering a B2B business in 2023, I wanted a name which was a conversation starter, plus which also had a meaning to it. Back in the day, I used to jokingly tell people कि COVID में मैं MMS scandals बेचता था, clips बेचता था और उसके बाद मैं मिठाई बेचने लगा, but that's not the fact. So Scandalous actually stands for the problems that the food industry faces. The full form of Scandalous is standardization, convenience, affordability, nil wastage, dependence on skilled labor, accessibility, lightning fast. Wow. So that is the scandal of the industry, as I call it.
Can you tell me how did it all begin for you? How did it all start?
Interestingly, when I was in the 11th and 12th grade, I had begun to realize my inclination towards events and food. During the 12th standard, I went home and told my mother that I wanted to do hotel management. And being an only child, I was, literally emotionally blackmailed and threatened to not do it. And I'd gone to Nasik to do engineering. So I spent 4 years in Nasik. And while I was doing engineering, so my first business was actually a majburi to get into the good books of a teacher. So I had an attendance issue. And
engineering colleges do have a mandatory attendance. Yeah,
absolutely. And the vice principal of the college was apparently very strict. I'd said the pune, but you had to be in the good books of the vice principal also. So then I came to know there was some space that he had behind the college which he wanted to rent out. I went and spoke to him, and कुछ तो ऐसे ground floor पे उसका एक hall था which he was renting out for 4,000 a month.
Okay.
And fortunately, being an only child, I used to get pocket money, so I thought this is manageable. I took that place on rent. I was like, ये तो manage हो जाएगा, and 4,000 a month is not a big cost to take care of for the attendance. And then I took that space, and then I realized that the guy was actually running a hostel on top of it. There were some 26 kids in the hostel, and the person who took that place, he actually wanted that person to run a canteen for those 26 kids.
Interesting.
I was like, damn. So, my first business was out of, so I took the space first, and I was like, okay, so then because I had to start a canteen, then I saw that, there was a dearth of North Indian food in Nasik. So we decided to start a North Indian tiffin service. And this was back in 2005 or 6 in Nasik.
Okay.
And 6 to be precise. And obviously, Nasik, it's still tier 2, but it was very tier 2 at that time. So, we named that business Shri Krishna Tiffins. At whatever age you are, पैसा बुरा नहीं लगता है. And
Especially when you're in college, that's
when
like
you're
an
in
extra
college.
pocket money. And destiny has it. Who knew you would actually go doing engineering and you'll find your passion in the canteen, you know?
No, wait, so let me correct you. I dropped out of engineering, but I continued the Tiffin service.
Okay.
Then I got into BCom and I completed my BCom finally. So my graduate zarur. Obviously, at that time, you were making fresh food. I didn't know frozen food. And then I realized that there was a requirement in another pocket of Nasik as well. So I opened another kitchen in Nasik.
Okay.
And my tiffin service do about 600, 700 tiffins a day. Then, when I opened another kitchen in, on Gangapur Road, I apparently started eating into the business of this one caterer there called Saptashungi Caterer. He one day called me and he was like, kya scene hai? Why are you doing this? Because he knew I was like some 19-year-old kid threatening his monopoly there. I said, like, मैं तो time pass के लिए कर रहा हूँ, final year आएगा तो मैं तो बंद. So he like, मुझे बेच दे. He like, I'll give you 15 days money. I was like, what do you mean? So he said 600 into 60 into 15. He gave me 5,75,000 rupees.
Whoa.
And before I knew exit was a term, that was my first exit from my business. I sold him my business.
Wow.
And by the way, then I invested that money into mutual funds and gold. And my family business was financial services. And then I came to Bombay to do my CFP. And when I was in Bombay, I thought I could eat butter chicken every day of my life. But after 6 months, I started ordering jeera aloo and dal fry from a restaurant in Powai. And because, I had run a tiffin service and I knew how wo kaisa dulta hai. So I didn't want to order from those tiffins.
Yeah.
And that's when I thought that there was a huge scope of doing, hygienic meals in a box for homely meals.
Yeah.
And that's how Urban Spice started in 2011. So that started my professional food journey.
I've been hearing a lot of entrepreneurs talk in their podcasts that, it's very necessary to, do the grind, understand, and let your startup come from a place where you're solving a problem.
Yeah.
And whatever I could hear today, I understand that you always wanted to solve a problem, which was about getting hygienic, tasty food.
So you put it very rightly, Priyanka. So, I keep telling people that, unless you are Papa ki pari, your problem is usually a problem of most of the people.
Yeah.
So if you have a problem and you think you can solve it at scale instead of cribbing about it.
So was that gap something that you always wanted to fill, and that with your ventures, you became more confident that demand was growing for that kind of food?
What I realized, in retrospect, I realized that, I have this uncanny, ability to find gaps in crowded, unorganized markets.
Okay.
So that North Indian gap was in Nasik back in 2006 in defense. Then, now when we say disposable packaging and all, it's a norm. Everybody does it. But in 2011, if you remember, tab khana wo, aluminum foils mein aata tha and all. So it was not like a norm. And then homely meals, tiffin service hote the, wo literally wo steel tiffins mein aata tha.
Sure.
So at that time, that was disruptive. Then, when we started doing food at events in 2015, that time there was only Domino's, which was an organized brand in the food at trade exhibition space. Others, it was all these Ramlal Shamlal kind of caterers. We saw that gap and then we got there. So and now Mithais. India eats 17 Mithais for every ice cream eaten.
Yeah.
But Mithais is a complete white space in post-meal impulse purchase.
Yeah.
So we saw that gap. We realized that, restaurants are not selling Mithais because they're not available with a shelf life and convenient packaging. So we created another channel for the Mithais. We've not reinvented the wheel. Rasmalai sab khate hai, sab jagah bandi hai. You'll throw a stone, wo koi rasmalai wale pe girega. We just got that rasmalai in a single serve 95-gram cup with a 6-month shelf life, and we are giving it to the restaurant menu, so that restaurant industry, so that they can add it to their menus and sell it to people like you, him, and him.
I remember one of your LinkedIn posts was talking about the big gap which is there. You went viral also for that, about the skill sets that the graduates have and versus, the gap when they join a startup.
Yeah, apparently that post went viral, and then Economic Times and Business Standard and all covered that post. And there was some controversy also around it, which I don't think I should talk about today. But anyways, what I meant by that was that, I think the education system in India needs to undergo a massive change, right? I work with a lot of hotel management kids in my production unit. I work with a lot of food technologists in my in my production unit. And even today, people who come out of hotel management have no freaking idea of what food processing is. आज भी उनके लिए hotel management से बाहर निकल के they want to go and work at a Marriott as a waiter. Eventually, their thing is that मैं waiter से manager बन जाऊंगा in the front end, और मैं पीछे like from a like a commie to a sous chef to a chef बन जाऊंगा. Or they think that they can go to a cruise and work in a cruise. This is their only ambition because that is what the hotel management people are teaching them. There is such a humongous opportunity with the whole cloud kitchen industry coming up, QSRs coming up, food processing coming up, food service coming up. Hotel management books mein, in 3 years, there is all of 2 pages on food processing.
Are you serious?
That's about it. So these kids do not even know that production units hote hai. Forget startups like Scandalous. There are huge legacy brands like Morde, BKL, FSIPL. They don't even have the ambition to go and work with them. On the contrary, food technologists, of course, by virtue of their degree, they know what food processing is. But barring these top 2-3 colleges like CFTRI, ICT, and maybe NIFTM, most of these food technology colleges that I've seen, kids that come out of there do not even know what blast freezing is, do not even know what retort is, which is like
it's a huge gap.
Like it's technically, to make it simple, it's like the ABC of food technology. So I don't know what these people are teaching them. Maybe it's like so theoretical, and we all know India mein to jugaad se hum pass ho jate hain. I think these guys, if it's a 4-year course, 2 years should be on ground. They should actually be sent to companies to learn stuff.
That's true.
And that's when there will be a change. So the change has to start from the education system level. You have to upskill everyone, right? Like unskilled laborers को semi-skill karo, semi-skill को skilled karo, skilled को कुछ और सिखाओ. वो
That's a very interesting thought.
I'm not saying that don't do MBA. Of course, people should do MBA if they think it makes sense for them. But I think after completing your undergrad, you should go and work for like 2 to 4 years before doing an MBA.
Because that's how abroad works,
because without working, doing MBA is so it's theoretical, right? Like otherwise it'll be so practical. And 5 out of 10 times, if you work for 4 years, you'll realize that तुम्हें वो MBA की शायद ज़रूरत भी नहीं पड़ेगी. Because you'll anyways grow in life if you're doing, the right things. And I think MBAs need to teach kids ownership.
Yeah, that's true.
I think people in India lack ownership to another level.
So, Sanket, you, apart from the name being Scandalous Foods, the fact that you've already exited from a couple of brands, from being Urban Spice to, your own initial startup, which was a canteen, that's very interesting that, earning 5 lakh rupees back in the day must be a big jackpot, and that too coming from a very unorganized, unconventional place, that the person saying, sell me the startup, and that time nobody was in a place like Nasik, but today, it's all about raising funds. You see brands are going all out, creating a lot of equity, be it via marketing, be it via whatever ways, but mostly it happens in the tech space. You see SaaS brands now today with AI in the picture. Everybody wants to raise funds, do marketing, develop the product. So I want to understand, because you raised like 50 CR, which is a huge money when it comes in the food startup space. How was that? And was it difficult to make those tech? I'm sure there must be some techies in your fundraising place as well to make them understand what actually happens in a food startup, when I'm sure they don't come from that space to invest in a space like that. So really want to know, what is it about raising funds, in a food startup?
Right. So I'll break that into 2 parts.
Yeah.
So first of all, you're absolutely right that most of the VCs in India have made money from tech. The problem is that most of these tech entrepreneurs of the 90s in India have made money by being a back office to product companies in the US. They themselves have not built product companies. We've got massive companies and massive respect for like the Infosys and the Wipros of the world. But they are technically recruiters for companies in the West. They are back office operators for them. For the lack of word, they glorified peons or maybe glorified assistant managers for them is how I look at it. While obviously, the owners of those companies they are obviously brilliant people to do that. But most VCs that have come out of there, they come with a very services mindset and not a product mindset. And hence, I've seen in India still there is, a problem with VCs investing in manufacturing companies or B2B companies. I've seen that mindset there.
That's true.
And a second, just to correct, so I've raised money at a 50 plus crore valuation, but I've raised a little over $1 million as of now for Scandalous, of course. The Urban Spice, I mean, overall, of course, I've raised multiple rounds in, like in different companies, but that is how it is. And yeah, I think, for the startup ecosystem, I see a lot of Gen Zs today starting companies for all the wrong reasons. I mean, I've actually met a couple of startup founders who are 23, 24 years old, and I asked them, so like, what is your agenda with the business? And their answer was like, अभी मैं 3 करोड़ रेस करूंगा, फिर मैं 20 करोड़ रेस करूंगा, फिर मैं 100 करोड़ रेस करूंगा, फिर मैं कंपनी बेचूंगा. And in all of this, he did not speak about the business model. He did not speak about his vision. He did not speak about his mission. So I think now, because and some friends of mine in the media, I keep telling them that we have started glorifying the wrong things in the media in India. The startup media companies, some of them are friends, so I don't want to name those companies. But they glorify funding and exits. Like they talk about Bhavesh and Ritesh Agarwal of Oyo and all of this. But you need to realize, for every Ritesh Agarwal, there are 1,000 other startups who have not made it there, right? So, I mean, of course, you have to glorify so that there are more people coming in the ecosystem. But you also need to be candid and tell them about the hustle, the grind in the startup ecosystem, right? Like, I mean, it's not all hunky dory or 365 days में से there is that one day in a year where you're going to raise that funds. 364 days तुम्हारी बजने वाली है, ठीक है? तो वो तुम्हें उसके लिए mentally prepared होना चाहिए, which today I see a lot of entrepreneurs are not prepared for, which is really sad. And on the other hand, like things like agriculture in India are not being glorified. There our mainstream media talks about farmer suicides and all. I mean, I have some farmer friends who will probably buy not this studio but like 4 bungalows, and they'll still be left with like 1,000 crores in their account. I mean, farmers are doing so well, and just because you are you're like talking about farmer suicides, farmer debt and all of that, which is, I mean, of course, प्रॉब्लम तो हर इंडस्ट्री में ना. आई मीन, रद्दी वाले भी, कोई रद्दी वाला करोड़पति होता है, कोई रद्दी वाला एक छोटी सी दुकान चलाता है. सो that is in every sector. It's not only in the agriculture sector. And India is such a agrarian economy, and you're not glorifying that, and you're glorifying this. And that's the reason why in India, like 51% people are in agriculture, and it's contributing to only 17% of your GDP. Right?
That's sad,
Which is sad. I mean, imagine like the skewness. And I think so. So that is.
So coming back to the fact that yes, we are not a product economy. Yes, you are right that we're still in that service space, and the tech startups are the ones who have been leading because of the kind of attention. But when it comes to, okay, I'm a food entrepreneur, and what are the 2 things I should do if I want to go down that road of raising funds? What are those 2 things I should really keep in mind? Of course, business model is there in place. So what are those 2-3 things I should keep in mind?
So see, first of all, when you're starting, let's say if you're talking about food business, let's talk about food business only. So first of all, when you start a food business, you need to have clarity whether you want to build a lifestyle business or you want to build a business at scale. And there is nothing wrong in doing either of them, by the way. I know some guys who are doing lifestyle businesses and they're doing a phenomenal job. Like, let's say, some great wedding caterer in Parla, he probably must be doing business of 20 crores per annum just in that 6 months, right? पर वो स्केलेबल बिजनेस नहीं है. जब तक वो भावेश भाई वहाँ पे बैठे हैं तब तक, और उनका रिलेशन वो सब उनकी गुजराती मारवाड़ी कम्युनिटी में है, तब तक उनको शादी का ऑर्डर मिलते रहेगा और वो करेंगे. द डे भावेश भाई डिसाइड्स टू रिटायर, दैट बिजनेस इज गॉन. ठीक है, सो दैट्स अ लाइफस्टाइल बिजनेस. बट ही डज अ बिजनेस ऑफ 20 करोड़ पर एनम, और उसमें वो बढ़िया, मतलब साल का 5-6 करोड़ घर लेके जा रहे हैं, विच इज सुपर फिनोमिनल. Then there are scalable businesses like, let's say, how a Rebel Foods is made or how a Wow Momo is made, where they made one kitchen, they created an ecosystem around it of systems, processes, infrastructure, and then they scaled that systems, processes, and infrastructure to 400, 500, 600 kitchens, and it made sense because with scale they attained economies of scale. So so basically, let's say they were spending 10 lakhs on one kitchen. they didn't end up spending 60 crores. They ended up spending 20 crores. So with economies of scale, their expenses went down. So that's when it makes sense to scale up a business, and such businesses are funded by investors.
Yeah.
So if you're in a business that can scale up and scale up exponentially, an investor will be interested in funding you.
Got it.
Dusra, I think you need to be very clear that when you raise funds, stop celebrating a fundraise. That's that's your means to an end, and that's not the end. So वो तो first step है. So I keep telling everyone कि fundraise किया, congratulate मत करो यार, all the best बोलो, because इसके बाद तो और hustle चालू होगा, और responsibilities आ जाएगी.
That's true.
So the day all of us startups realize that it's a means to an end and not an end, we will take fundraising more seriously, and we will be more disciplined post a fundraise.
Yeah.
And I feel that raising funds is amazing, because when an investor comes and sits on your cap table, you become more responsible, because as a business owner, technically you're not reporting to anyone, right? But when you raise funds, you start reporting to an investor. In a way, not that they are very, they don't come into your daily operations and all of that, unless you're doing really bad. So that responsibility and that discipline comes in your business, which is very good.
That's true. And specifically talking about the Indian food sector, which has been highly unorganized, like you explained today, there are reasons for it being unorganized as well, because food is very personal. There will be someone in the community who would take up that role of leading the wedding business, or doing that thing for the community. But yes, now with the scales, economies, and so many global brands coming on in India as well, it's a huge place that people have to become more and more responsible about raising their funds in the right fashion, not just showing the numbers and glorifying the figure. But like you said, the hustle begins after you raise the funds. So what are those 2-3 things you have learned after raising funds, apart from the discipline, how do you keep your investors happy, if in simple words we have to understand that?
So see, I'm not a first-time entrepreneur. I bootstrapped my first business, so I had that discipline from that business. Once you raise funds, first thing I kept in mind was that I'm not doing business to keep my investor happy. I'm doing business to make money.
True.
I'm doing business to ensure that let's say there are 50-60 people working in my company, so their families get money on time, they grow.
Sure.
The mission that we have of post-meal impulse purchase of desserts, that is reaching a distribution network. So if those things are clear and we work towards that, your investors will anyways be happy, right? Our first investors, the first round we raised in Feb 24, we were at an X revenue. Today we are at a 9X revenue. So in the last 2 years, we've grown 9X.
Yeah.
That I assume has has made our investors happy, at least if not a laugh, at least it's got a smile on their face, I assume. So that is, I think, the key, right? That's the mistake that a lot of our startups make, कि वो investor किस चीज से खुश होगा. मतलब आप investor के लिए पहले business मत tweak करो, because you in all likelihood will get 10-15 investors on board, and everybody will have an opinion. And of course they mean good to you, because they've also invested their money, they have skin in the game, but you know your business best. So keep your ears on the ground, keep your blinders on, be very focused and keep growing.
Sure.
And do not keep pivoting, or do not keep changing your ideas, or do not do not spread very wide. Be focused on that particular idea and keep growing there. Sure. That is the key to grow after raising funds.
There's a gap.
Yeah.
But how did the process and the learning be? Today there are some amazing partners on board that you have, but was the day one, were you able to see these partners when you started at day one, in the Scandalous Food?
So, what I interestingly saw, Priyanka, was that obviously, so after Urban Spice, I had actually run a cloud kitchen brand with a celebrity chef.
Oh, nice.
And even for that, I had back-ended my food. And within a year, we'd grown to 11 kitchens across Mumbai.
Nice.
Very encouraging, 4.1 ratings. But at the end of the year, I shut that business down, because I was getting this feeling that I'm working for Zomato and Swiggy without a salary, right? Because I'm sure other people do a great job there, but at least for me, the commission structure, CPCs, discounts, that didn't add up. I was not sure how I'll make money even when I'm at 100 outlets. And hence I decided to wind up that business. And maybe because I've always come from a B2B, B2B2C background. So maybe that B2C was not for me. And because I had I had learned food backending in urban spice, because I backended my Desi Chinese line in 2016, we scaled urban spice. Because I backended my, the products for the cloud kitchen brands, we scale up cloud kitchen brands to 11 kitchens.
Wow.
So I realized that this is the need for the food service industry. And post COVID, restaurant industry had started accepting frozen as the new fresh. So I realized that now the growth that will come in the food service industry will be from organized players. The Wow Momos and the Rebels will lead this growth, and not probably like the Shiv Sagars of the world. And for them to grow, they will ape the organized players of the West. So McDonald's and Burger Kings of the world grew on back of frozen supply chains from commissaries, and this was going to replicate in India. Now I realized that then I realized that the plate of the industry is divided into the center of the plate and the side of the plate. So let's say if we take Behro's Biryani as an example, biryani is the center of the plate, and categories like tikkas, kebabs, sweets, desserts, beverages are side of the plate categories. Now I realized that side of the plate categories, if done well and integrated well into the menus, they contribute to about 20% of the top line and 70% of the bottom line. It's more profitable to sell the fries than the burger. It's more profitable to sell the iced tea than the pizza, right?
Yeah.
So that's the concept. So I realized that it makes sense to concentrate on side of the plate. Now in that, I started seeing where the gap is, because I wanted to be a category specialist, and I didn't want to be a journalist doing 200 products.
Sure.
So I saw that there are 41 lakh restaurants in India. 99% of them don't make their own fries. 17 lakh restaurants are selling fries. 99% restaurants are not making their own ice creams, but 25 lakh restaurants are selling ice creams. Interestingly, 90% of restaurants are not making their own mithais, but less than 1% restaurants are selling milk-based mithais. And I realized that they're selling ice creams because ice creams are available with a 12-month shelf life, and they're available in convenient packaging of cups, cones, tubs, bars. And hence it's easy for restaurants to buy them and store them, and hence it's available on the restaurant menus. So we realized that interestingly, when you talk about preferences, India eats 17 mithais for every ice cream eaten. But most of the
Really?
most of
That's
the
huge.
most of the mithais sold in India planned purchases, celebrations, occasions, and like I call them pin code heroes sell them, the mithai walas. And I realized that post meal impulse purchase में तो खाने के बाद एक रसमलाई मिल जाती तो मजा आ जाता, उसमें it was a complete white space. That's when Scandalous Foods was born in May 23 with the idea of getting Indian milk-based mithais with a 6-month shelf life in convenient 95-gram single-serve packs for the restaurant industry. And of course, when I started, I realized that our obvious targets will be, like these online ordering first restaurants, because for them, this is a perfect solution. It's zero capex, zero opex, zero wastage, zero pilferage. It obviously, they can easily add it into their restaurant menu. It gives them 300% gross margins, so if they buy it from us as X, they sell it to you at 3X.
Wow.
So it's phenomenal margins for them. So it was a win-win-win for all of us.
And
So
you've solved a huge problem in the industry, because I think Indian mithais have such a huge, gap still, because not, like you rightly said,
Yeah.
you only go for them because they are not available so easily, and it's like you literally have to go to a mithai shop wala, or, and that effort nowadays with fast commerce, nobody wants to take. So
interesting,
great,
absolutely. And interestingly, while people think that, we're a mithai company, we actually are eventually going to be a distribution company, right? I mean, there are 41 lakh restaurants in India. I think 35 lakh restaurants can sell mithais. So the idea is that over the next 6 years, can we be available at about 1 lakh restaurants?
Yeah.
And that would actually make us a distribution company and not a product company. So that's what we're working towards.
Very good vision, and all the best for the vision. Sanket, you also are an honorary member with the Thai Food Network here in Mumbai. How did that network come into place? I would be very interested in knowing about.
I have actually been associated with Thai since 2012. I was all of 24 years old, and I had, founded Urban Spice, and I used to initially go to Thai as a volunteer, and I used to help them with events, and then I kept growing in Thai, and there were a lot of places where Thai helped me meet people, get access to people, and all of that. When I sold Urban Spice in 2019, in 2020 Jan, I co-founded Thai Food Network as a special interest group with Thai Mumbai, because I realized that a lot of young entrepreneurs do not know what to do when they start. They do not have access to, slightly more experienced entrepreneurs. So can we build a group which could help these people. And plus, also for fellow entrepreneurs who've done some work in the space, a platform where they can meet each other, probably do business with each other,
Sure.
exchange ideas with each other, get access to investors,
Nice.
get access to mentors, all of that. So that was the whole idea of co-creating Thai Food Network. And because, we've been through the 2011 में मेरे को कोई बताने वाला नहीं था कि फूड में क्या करना है, 2014 में क्या करना है, सब हाथ जला जला के ही सीखे, मतलब गैस कम जली हाथ ज़्यादा जले is how I keep saying, right? So I wanted to solve that problem for today's generation of entrepreneurs. So that was the whole idea of doing this. And I must say that, our ecosystem is so well knit, and, the whole, I mean, of course, within 3 months, COVID came. So it by default went digital. And the whole industry supported, right from Sagar of Wow Momo to Jaideep of Rebel to Jaspal of Burger King to Chef Harpal to Chef Sanjeev Kapoor to Perizad of Zorabian. All of them, Raghav of Chayos, Amulik of Chai Point, they all came together. They all came on different events.
Great. You have created a good community of people, who can, bounce off ideas. And I think Thai Network is a great place for a lot of young entrepreneurs to, come and connect with you and, founders who have already been doing it for a while, and it's a
And
good space.
interestingly, Priyanka, so it's a win-win for everyone because, seasoned entrepreneurs get to meet young entrepreneurs. So that gives them an opportunity to mentor someone and probably invest in them.
Yeah.
Fellow entrepreneurs, like let's say if I've spent 10 years and there are 3 other people who spend in the 8 to 12 year range, we probably meet each other, get to do business with each other, or like bounce off ideas. Like I was amazed, I was like, to give you this example, I mean, I think 3-4 months ago, I was doing a offline food founders meetup in Bombay. And coincidentally, the owner of Bikaji was coming to Bombay, and fortunately, I know him. And, we happened to chat, and he told me that, I'm going to be in Bombay, why don't, we catch up for some more. So I said, I'm doing this Food Founders Network. Would you want to come there as a guest of honor? So he asked me, what it is. So I told him, and I said, he's the owner of Bikaji. It's a 36,000 crore company, right? I said, he'll probably come for half an hour. I said, and it's a closed door event. There are not going to be more than 40 people. But because he was coming, we had to, there were so many requests. We had to then increase it from 40 to 65 people and cap it at 65 people because that space was for 40 people.
Wow.
It was amazing. I thought he will, like Mr. Deepak Agarwal, I thought he will come for at 5:30, leave at 6. He came at 5:15, 15 months before the event so that, he could understand how the flow will be. He stayed there till 8:30.
Wow.
He met every startup there. The startups who got samples. He tried their stuff. I don't know. Maybe, in the future, he might invest in someone. Someone might get his mentorship, whatever it is. But this is how the platform works for people.
That's great. Yeah. And it's a good space because end of the day, we all want to bounce our ideas. We all want people to vet a bit of it because there's money is involved, hardship of burning your hands. You don't want to keep burning your hands like
absolutely.
you rightly said. So Sanket, very, very interesting food for thought. There's so much to go back and think about when it comes to, food and hospitality sector. It's growing like crazy because of the disposable income, the FOMO in the Gen Zs today, and more experiential driven, things that are coming up in the market, So I, as a content creator, always have been toying with the idea if Madira Vogue had to start a service or a product, what would that be in a food space? What do you think with your experience, a brand like Madira Vogue today, which is just talking about alcobev, nightlife, can do as a product to offer to its audience?
So before I answer your question, this is a collab that I had not expected. Madira X Scandalous, and it's looking so tempting.
Yes.
For a change, I try these sweets every day, but now I'm super tempted to have them. But of course, I will control, and so will this bhaiya behind the camera control. But yeah, coming back to your question, so I jokingly keep telling you, Priyanka, that you should start another series called Madira Vogue Goes Rogue, which I think is like a lovely series. But of course, we'll talk about that later. But on a serious note, so I think Priyanka, what you've done is you've created a crazy digital distribution, right? And I think I think it's time to monetize it with in very different ways. Everyone is a content creator today in terms of, of course, there are not many like you who've crossed that 50K, 80K mark on Instagram, which is phenomenal. Congratulations for that.
Thank you.
But I think because you meet so many alcobev companies, so many bars serving alcohol, I think you should also start offering other services to these bars, which is not only promoting them, because आपके जैसे और 10 लोग उनको प्रमोट करते होंगे, but if you give them like market research insights, you give them culinary insights, that's going to give you an edge over the others.
Sure.
And that's where so I mean, I remember there's this amazing company called Tact Taste. In fact, a mentor of mine runs that company. They were doing an ethnography research report for Monkey Bar in Bandra.
Oh, wow.
And I had also participated in that with them, and I thought it was very interesting. So what they wanted to come out with was that I mean, at the end of the research, like the menu that Monkey Bar is offering, the drinks that Monkey Bar is offering, versus the crowd that it is attracting, is it matching, or does it need tweaks?
Wow.
And so it spoke about market research, it spoke about consumer research, it spoke about the geographical area that you're in, the kind of people, like the kind of people, the probable spending power that the people have there, the kind of people. See, because back in the day, I remember when I used to, party a lot in 2006, 11, 14 days, I remember I had to travel to Juhu, Bandra, Kolaba from Powai. Today, at least I'm talking about Bombay as a city, every pin code in Bombay has become self-sufficient in terms of offering party places or places to go out, right? Like, I mean, I don't know about Dombivli and Virar and all of that. I'm sure even they must be having. But like, for that matter, even Thane, right? Like, even Thane has enough places, Powai has enough places, Bandra has enough places, Juhu has enough places. I'm sure Borivali has enough places. So, people from Borivali are not going to travel to Monkey Bar in Bandra to visit it. You are going to attract people from that 3-4 kilometer radius. Plus, you have competition from so many other places. So, I think if you can start offering those kind of services to people, or you collaborate with such companies because you have the distribution, they have the intel, I think those kind of combinations could work very well for Madira Vogue, and it could create like a Madira Vogue plus plus.
Thank you. That's a very interesting thought. I had never thought about it, because every time, you are as a content creator being told, oh, launch a product, launch a product. But yeah, that's a very interesting thought, and I would definitely like to know more about it, and do more research. Thank you for sharing that with me.
Most welcome.
And, coming back to the space that, today all spaces are becoming self-sufficient and, trying to do their bit to attract the customer where they are. Definitely there is scope to keep reinventing. But in the space that we are, right now talking about, the alcobev, we see so many bars shutting down, Sanket. I mean, it's not even funny. They come, they go. They come, they go. Very few cult bars, like Monkey is one of those that, it has been surviving for so many years, or Bonobos of the world, but because they have developed a very cult following for themselves. But for somebody starting today, why would, breaking down into two parts. First is, why do bars shut down? Why do you think they'd shut down?
So before I answer this question, I have a question for you. I think because of the work that you do, I'm pretty sure every Friday, Saturday, you're visiting one bar or the other, because your work takes you there, and obviously you will end up eating and drinking there. So in the last 10 outings of yours, what is it that you have ended up eating at these bars?
To be very honest, very less, because food is never. But yeah, mostly it's the finger foods, like the starters, like chicken, or something which is maybe sushis, something which goes well with your drinks, and obviously because you don't want to drink empty stomach, something like that.
Makes sense. And what do you usually drink? Like I mean, let's say if like out of the 10 outings, what is it that you usually end up drinking on, let's say, 8 of those 10 outings?
Most of the time now I've skewed towards whiskey, so I have become a very big whiskey drinker. So mostly I've been trying cocktails like old fashioned to whiskey sour, things which are around whiskey.
Fair. Awesome. So I just was trying to be sure like what I'm going to say is in the right direction. So, I remember once I was interviewing Sanjeev Kapoor at during my that one of those webinars at Typhoon Network, and he told me something that has stuck with me. He said that Indians talk newness, and we consume familiarity. And I think a lot of these cult bars, I mean, of course, they by virtue of being there for the last 20 years, they've created that loyal following.
Yeah.
But it is also because uh, they have only been 20% experimental and 80% they've stuck to the basics of giving familiar products.
True.
Today also, if you go to a monkey bar, you will get some, like in that menu of 20 items, you'll get like 4 items which are very atrangi, but 16 items which are, which are there, which are regularly eaten by us. There will be I mean, there might be a different name to it, but there will be a chicken chili there. There will be some drums of chicken there. There will be that typical sriracha prawns there. There will be veg mein typical finger foods mein. There will be that typical masala peanut or whatever there, and of course sushi has, at least in that circuit, has entered mainstream now. There will be those typical 2-3 sushis there, 2-3 dim sums there, but I mean, there will be products which are known to us and familiar to us.
That's true.
And that's why we are comfortable eating that. And even in I mean, you have access to the best alcohol that Bombay provides, and I think Bombay provides the best alcohol in India for sure. But you still stick to your old fashioned, you still stick to your whiskey sour. And that's something that probably even my father had, I don't know about my grandfather, but my father for sure had it. We had it. I mean, Gen Zs are having it. So that familiarity stays. So I think these days a lot of these new bars are spending crores of rupees to make Instagrammable places. उसके लिए तो studios है ना. I mean, the bars, I mean, of course, sure, you need to provide the ambience. I mean, you're not going to always go into a hole into the wall place. But apart from the ambience, you're coming there for the drink, you're coming there for the food.
Yeah.
And then you need to be very clear on who you're targeting. If you're targeting Gen Zs, then make sure that you're not very heavy on the pockets. If you're targeting millennials, then provide the ambience that the millennials will like. If you're expensive, then you're in all likelihood targeting millennials because we still have more spending power than them. We still apparently drink more than them. We still are a more intelligent generation. I just wanted to put this in this answer. We are more intelligent than the Gen Zs.
Yes.
So then the ambience needs to be right. Like, I mean, on a Wednesday evening, I don't want to go to a place which is, which has glaring music and which doesn't allow me to have a conversation with you. I mean, on a Wednesday, I need to go to a place where there is music in the background and I can have a conversation with you.
Yeah.
On a Friday, then I'm very clear that I'm going there to party. So I'm okay.
Yeah.
So, or there needs to, I remember back in the day, there used to be, Rood Lounge is obviously still there, but there was this Rood Lounge, which, like one of the first Rood Lounges opposite Powai Lake.
Yeah.
It was brilliantly planned. They had this calendar. So Monday, Tuesday, you knew it was like, quite TV screenings, cricket screenings, also chalta tha. Wednesday used to be Bollywood night. So you knew that if you're going on Wednesday, it's going to be Bollywood night.
Yeah.
Thursday will again be like a quiet scene. Friday will again be some, night, and Saturday will be some night, and Sunday is going to be again, whatever. So you were very clear कि आज मैं Wednesday को जा रहा हूँ तो मैं Bollywood night के लिए जा रहा हूँ, and food में familiarity था, drinks में familiarity था, and that's why that place is still there.
Yeah. Got it.
And in fact, it has scaled, and that's why I think a lot of these places, we should not name them because you work with a lot of them, but every 2 years you see certain locations, these it locations, where you will always see a new bar opening there every 2 years.
That's true. And, adding to the fact that you rightly said the familiarity sells, and that is how you need to attract the customers. But sadly, because it's again becoming all about Instagram, people are going there and clicking more pictures of the food than eating it. I have seen it happen so much.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I went towards blogging about alcohol was because I saw a gap. Nobody used to talk that time, when I started 5 years back, nobody used to share their drinks on, camera. Everybody used to share their food pictures. So I also saw that gap and I did it. But today, a lot of people, and there are reports in globally, Gen Zs are drinking less, and it's worrisome because billions of dollars of worth of alcohol is not being consumed, while you can drink responsibly. Why do you think Gen Zs are drinking less, and how does it affect the hospitality?
So I think that generation, of course, it's a good thing if, they're doing it for the right reasons. But I think, I mean, if I have to be very candid about it, I think I jokingly tell people वो लोग सूखे नशे करने लगे इसके लिए, like they're like consuming less alcohol, which is honestly a fact. I mean, there will be no research about it, but I think the consumption of, like probably the weeds of the world has gone up in that generation, and that's why they probably are consuming less alcohol. Secondly, when they are going out, they, like you said, like they are living for Instagram, so they want to portray a certain thing. They want to portray that they're matcha drinking people. They are like these, like healthy juice drinking people. So they want to be seen that ways. Plus, I jokingly tell some of my friends running these bars that come out with a new rule, like come out with a locker system. When you enter the bar, if you put your mobile in the locker, we'll give you a 10% discount. Automatically your sale of food and drinks will go up. I have seen people go out and it is so weird at all levels. So many times I've seen like these two Gen Z couples, वो दोनों अपने फोन में लगे हुए हैं, ठीक है, बात नहीं कर रहे हैं. आप बाहर आए हो because like you rightly said, वो खाना आएगा, they want to click that and put it on Instagram, they want to click that nice cocktail and put it on Instagram. But no, they're not talking to each other. They're on Instagram all the time. And I'm like, dude. So I think if, people start offering 10% discount to people who are willing to keep their phone in the locker, I think the sale of food and alcohol will actually start going up. Because if they want to put it on Instagram, उनका काम तो वो एक फोटो लेके हो गया ना. उसके बाद they're done. I mean, then they don't need to eat more and drink more.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think too much of exposure. I think it's overexposure, and there are a lot of studies
and what
which
I've
have
seen
come out.
and what I've seen with that generation is that what they eat out and what they show that they're eating on Instagram is very different from what they're eating 6 days a week.
That's true.
I work with a few Gen Zs. I've seen every time they go out, they will talk about the sushis, but on a daily basis, they will eat that dal, bhaji, chawal, chicken, chapati, and all of that, and regular homemade stuff. So if 12 out of 14 meals you're eating that, then you're not a sushi person. You're not a ramen person. You're eating that once in a week or once in 15 days because that's what your credit card is allowing after all your spends that you've done to show off on Instagram, to eat that. And because that will make you look cool. Like I keep saying, हमारे इंडियन खाने को हमने खुद ग्लैमराइज नहीं किया. कोई रसमलाई की फोटो थोड़ी ना इंस्टाग्राम पे डालता है, पर तिरामिसू की डालता है. तिरामिसू पर वो महीने में एक बार जब वो like मेगूमी जा रहा है तभी खा रहा है. वो बाकी टाइम घर पे रसमलाई और गुलाब जामुन ही खाने वाला है. So that is what it is.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think that question is very rightly, now that you brought this up, then why don't we have a global brand of Indian mithais abroad, or why are we not exporting or exporting at scale? We are exporting, but why is there a gap, still there where, we glorify waffles and, donuts, but why there is no glorification of a gulab jamun in US or in UK?
So it's not only about gulab jamun and rasmalai. I think it's about we not glorifying any food. आज भी हम लोग हमारे खुद के खाने को इतने बोरिंग तरीके से बेचते हैं. हम लोग बोलते हैं फूल गोभी खा लो, राजमा चावल खा लो, छोले भटूरे खा लो. मतलब ठीक है. I mean, there is, we've grown up eating chole bhature, so we are very excited about it. But US consumes more cauliflower in the name of vegan pizzas than we consuming here, right? Because they've glorified that. I mean, you go to some nice, European places in Bombay also, they will sell you a nice aubergine, and you'll be like, oh, let's eat this. और घर पे तुम बैंगन आलू नहीं खाओगे, right?
That's true.
So I mean, edamame. I mean, बचपन से हमारे घर पे पापड़ी आ रही है, और आज सबको edamame खाना है. So I mean, it's funny at all levels. हम सांबर में से ड्रमस्टिक को बाहर निकाल के रख देते थे, और आज पूरा वर्ल्ड हमको मोरिंगा पाउडर बेच रहा है. So we wait for Europeans or Americans to tell us that this is really cool. But we don't want to glamorize it on our own. I mean, why can't we name it well? Like I remember I was traveling to Rajasthan for some work. I was in fact in Bikaner, and I had gone down to the hotel for a breakfast. And when you're in Bikaner, why would you not eat kachori, jalebi, rabdi and all of that, right? And it was a fab buffet spread. And there was this huge table, with like a huge family must have come for wedding or whatever. एक 3-4 साल का लड़का था, वो उसकी मम्मी वो waffle pancake लाया, और उसकी मम्मी proudly बोली, my son only eats pancakes and waffles. मैं मन में सोचा, बहन तू cool दिखने के लिए कर रही है. उसको तू जलेबी खिला, वो 4 साल का है, उसने खुद नहीं सोचा होगा पैनकेक वॉफल खाना, तू उसको बोल रही है कि ये कूल है खाना, वो 10 लोगों के सामने तू उसको कूल बनने, बट इट इज सो स्टूपिड, यू गॉन टू ब्लडी Bikaner and you're eating pancake and waffles. You're supposed to go and enjoy the jalebi was outstanding, the rabdi was outstanding, and I being a mithai company and I'm saying it was so bloody good there, and that guy was eating pancake, वो उसको 4 साल की उम्र पे ये सिखा रहे हैं हम लोग. So that's the problem with India.
Yeah, we're not glorifying our own
We're not
food.
glorifying, yeah.
I think that's so true that except for butter chicken, we have never had any other item. And while our chefs, you see,
So
Vikas
butter
Khanna
chicken और
or
chicken tikka भी popular हुआ because the English people started loving it because वो इंडिया में 200 साल हमको काम राज करके गए, तो वो लेके गए, और वो जो वहाँ पे बिक रहा है वो थोड़ा ट्वीक्ड वर्जन है, और इसके वो लोग ने पॉपुलराइज किया, हमारे इंडियंस ने जाके कुछ पॉपुलराइज नहीं किया है. We've not worked hard to popularize it. It's just that fortunately these Britishers started loving our butter chicken and chicken tikka masala, and that's why it's become popular there, and then that's why now everybody talks about it.
And such an irony, because our wars in the past were fought for spices. Our economies were running on spices.
Absolutely.
So how this gap has come, why we are not glamorizing our own food is a very, very big question. I think we should let the audience also answer this in the
absolutely. And I mean, even if we talk about desserts, right? I mean, like Italy took the cakes to the world. Like baklavas are now sold across the world.
Yeah.
I think, in fact, Rasmalai was now named in the top 10 desserts as an Indian cheesecake.
Oh.
We could have promoted it that way.
Yeah.
And like they sell chocolates as aphrodisiacs and high energy products.
Yes.
It's all sugar and whatever. There's nothing else in it. In fact, honestly, like Rasmalai is high in protein. I don't promote it that way because there'll be these smart pants coming on Instagram and like they'll bash us saying kitna protein, and I don't want to get into this. We are shamelessly indulgent, and that's how I want to sell it. Otherwise, technically some of our products, like Rasmalai, is very high in protein because it's condensed milk, it's chena which comes out of milk, moong dal, it's a pulse which has high protein. It's made in ghee, it's so good.
Yeah.
So why don't we promote our mithais in that fashion?
That's
We've
true.
not made them on the go. वो सब नहीं किया है. Hopefully, Scandalous Foods in the years to come will work on that.
And I hope Scandalous Food makes the Indian mithai go global and on the global map.
Absolutely. हम लोग इंडिया में फालतू में plant-based meat promote कर रहे हैं. India में it's never going to work because India में 32% people are vegetarian, 68% people are non-vegetarian. The non-vegetarian people in India also 12 out of 14 meals on an average veg खाते हैं. We're used to eating veg food, so we don't need those plant-based meats and all of that. India में most of the products are plant-based anyways. हमारी गोभी आलू plant-based है, राजमा plant-based है, छोले plant-based है. तो आपको plant-based, lab-based meat की ज़रूरत भी क्या है?
That's true. Very interesting. A lot of food for thought. I think as we grow more smarter about the wellness trend, we should also get more smarter about what food we are putting in our guts and not just go behind Instagrammable content.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you, Sanket. This has been a lot of pleasure, but none of my guests go out without answering a rapid fire. So we are going to have a rapid fire round with you as well.
Sure.
And because these drinks are so tempting, I'm going to tell that in case you don't want to answer a rapid fire, you will have to take a bite of.
I think I'm so tempted. I'm going to have a bite of this so that I can answer rapid fire better.
Be my guest, man. Please, let's have a small
Let's
bite
do this,
of it
yeah.
and start our rapid fire round.
Let's try this.
God, these look so yummy.
You just glorified the Rasmalai.
I've intoxicated the Rasmalai today.
It's crazy.
Wow. The bittersweet is too addictive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me.
Yeah,
try it as well.
But I am really tempted to suggest a bar takeover with Indian mithais. What do you think about it?
No, I'm actually thinking I'm going to set up a small. I mean, I have a small bar at my house. I'm going to actually do these experiments, and then I'm going to give it to you to put it in your distribution network.
I would love to. And let's maybe someday make some cocktails out of these.
Yeah, let's do this. Yeah.
So great. Coming to the rapid fire, which is the tradition here. So you can pass if you want or have a drink while you answer them.
Sure.
Starting with the first question, what is that one food trend in India you see overhyped,
So, which I just mentioned in the last answer. I think these plant-based meats. I think there's just overhype. That's not going to work in India.
What is the biggest mistake that the first-time food founders do most of the time?
एक हो तो बताओ. It's not a rapid fire. It's like a full.
Okay, top 2 mistakes or 3 mistakes the food founders do first timers.
So I think what I've seen with most food founders is that they spend a lot of time on building a great logo, spend a lot of time on thinking of the brand, color of the website, marketing collaterals, all of that, but they do not concentrate on the product and the distribution. I think that's the problem. So product, distribution and marketing go hand in hand. You can't just concentrate on one of the 3 and not concentrate on the other 2.
That's true. That's so true. You are a new age tech entrepreneur in its own way because you're scaling things at a very different way for Scandalous Food. Today, how do you use AI? And if you could name few apps that make your life easy in the AI space.
So I would really like to tell people that, if you think AI is a hype, it is not. AI is real. It changes every day. Please learn. And AI is making your life easy as fuck. I use Gemini for all the research that I need to do. Now I've started using Gemini to even understand how to analyze my sales, to analyze my spends. I've started recently doing it. Uske pehle it was I used GenSpark to make all my presentations, quarterly reports, all of that. Now I've recently started learning Pomeli and OpenClaw. So OpenClaw apparently could be trained to become my automated EA, and Pomeli will help us with a lot of marketing stuff. So as of now, I use 2 things: Gemini Pro and GenSpark Pro, and now I am beginning to learn OpenClaw, and then hopefully Pomeli.
Nice. So yeah, I hope to see a digital avatar of Sanket soon in the space.
Yeah, that maybe. I mean, maybe for the Instagram, but yeah.
Nice. Gulab Jamun versus Rasmalai, which is your favorite and you think can be scaled globally?
I think Rasmalai hands down. I think Rasmalai has tremendous scope to be scaled as like an Indian cheesecake. We've even come out with a baked rasgulla, which is, typically Rasmalai with thick rabdi, baked in an oven, and I think it is phenomenal. And when you want to sell it at, like, let's say cafes, just add a blueberry compote to it or a raspberry compote to it, and it does magic. I think Rasmalai, if, like I say, glamorized well, can become like one of the top 5 desserts in the world.
Wow, that's great. We are in Bombay, which is melting pot for new trends in the food space. But apart from Bombay, which city do you think is doing the food right in India?
I think in modern India, Bangalore. I think especially in the field that interests you a lot, I think Bangalore has, one of the most amazing breweries, what beers they brew.
Yeah.
I think in terms of food also, that city latches on to every food trend, like first. And I keep telling people that, just because you started a restaurant in Bangalore and it's worked well there, it doesn't mean it'll work well everywhere else.
That's true.
So if you've started in Bangalore and you want to scale, open that same outlet in some other city, and if it works well there, then decide if it can scale to across cities. Because Bangalore is very, very experimental is what I would say.
That's true.
And then otherwise, I think every city in India has a food story.
Every city does.
Every city in India has a food story. So
yeah. One food trend that you see Gen Zs make a huge deal about today.
One
food trend that you see Gen Zs making a huge deal about today.
Some of them, are talking about matcha and then in food, edamame. I'm not sure if matcha would, see the light at the end of the tunnel in terms of scale. I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, because the original matcha is so difficult to produce. Sometimes even I have my doubts, how the scales are coming in.
And we've all grown up drinking tea, and then of course coffee companies have done a great job in penetrating coffee into the ecosystem.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much of a matcha drinking country can we be.
Sanket, last but not least, if someone had to start their own food startup today, in whatever space it might be, what is that one piece of advice you give them?
So anyone who wants to enter the food space, and I see a lot of people entering the food space because उनको लगता है कि खाने में 300% margins है, आज हम करोड़ रुपए डालेंगे, 2 साल बाद उसमें से 3 करोड़ निकल के जाएंगे, ये सही नहीं है. When you want to enter the food business, be ready to roll up your sleeves and work very hard. Food business is ops heavy. Food business is boring. Glamour is only on Instagram and on some startup night awards. Otherwise, you need to understand the unit economics. You need to understand your P&L. You need to understand your cash flows. You need to understand your product. You need to understand your supply chain. You need to understand your back end. You need to understand all of this and then bring it all together like a flywheel. That is when you will be able to possibly build a good food business. So if you're ready for all of this, that is when you should think of entering the food business.
Thank you. That's such a practical advice, and I'm sure it will go miles for people who are entering today. To roll up this.
But having said that, I think in India, what IT did in 80s and 90s to the GDP of India, food service and food processing could do the same in 2020s and 2030s, because I think, like you rightly pointed out, the disposable income is growing up. Roti kapda makan is a solved problem. So now people are spending on consumption, and I think food service and food processing will only grow 7-8 times from here over the next 10 years. So I think it is the most beautiful time to enter food service or food processing, but provided you enter with the right reasons and with the right thought process.
Thank you for motivating the community of Madira Vogue with these genuinely candid answers. I mean, I think it's very, very interesting to have entrepreneurs come here and talk the real thing, the real truth out, which is needed today. Because end of the day, people are going to be looking up to you guys to take the next leap forward, globally put Rasmalai and other good Indian sweets on the map. So we really wish Scandalous Food and you all the very best for that. Thank you, Sanket.
Thank you, Priyanka, for having me here, and thank you for making me try a new vodka today. I love being here.
We're going to share the recipe on our reels. So,
Absolutely.
People who are looking at these interesting drinks, stay tuned for the reel as well.
And I would love to see Madira Vogue going places, Madira Vogue going rogue, and Madira Vogue starting new verticals like ethnography.